It's been almost a year and a half since the government banned small-scale mining as part of the fight against galamsey. In that time, several activities have been undergone by government to ensure that mining can be done safely and legally in Ghana. The organization or the group responsible for most of that activity is the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. And finally, they announced a roadmap to returning to legal small-scale and artisanal mining here in Ghana. We're here to learn more about what it's going to take for this to become a reality and what small-scale miners are supposed to do to regularize their trade here in Ghana. To educate us is the secretary of this committee, Mr. Charles Cromwell Nanabenyin Unyawonto Bisu. Mr. Bisu, thank you for your time.
Thanking you.
Excellent. So, first of all, tell us about the committee. It was established some time ago, but which ministries make up the committee and what is your mandate?
Okay, thanking you. This Interministerial Committee was established in April 2017. The establishment of this committee actually traveled from the MPP manifesto, where it was stated that when Ghanaians vote MPP into power, we're going to restructure and sanitize the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. So true to its word, we want power, and the president made good to that. So the Interministerial Committee was formed. It comprises of about 10 ministries. We have Interior, Defense, which is a collaboration of Operation Vanguard, Environment, which is Professor Frumpong Boateng, who is the chairman of the committee, Lands and Natural Resources. He hitherto was Honorable John Peter Mewu, but now we have Honorable Asuma Kweku Asuma Treme. Chieftaincy headed by Kofi Jamesi. He is to do with the chiefs and all that, as the chiefs being the custodians of our land. And we have Alternative Livelihood, which falls under Ministry of Local Government, Hajia Alima, Danbotre, Ministry for Reorganization. And we have Water and Sanitation, Kofi Ada, hitherto now as Honorable Cecilia Dapa. Yeah. So they actually form the committee. Information also plays a pivotal role as well as to actually dissemination what we've been doing. And then also we have the National Security Advisor to the President as a member of the committee.
Very well. Now, obviously, it's been a year and 5 months since the committee was established. And now we have a roadmap, which we're about to explore. But why has it taken so long to get going? Why has this roadmap taken a year and a half to create?
I mean, as the saying goes, good things comes to those who wait. I think mining has been in our existence for time immemorial, and so we have been doing the wrong thing for a period of time, and so it's become the normal way of doing it. So changing the psychology of people makes it difficult, and so we are changing it from abnormal to normal. And so those who are, actually engage in mining think what the government is doing is abnormal, whereas the other people on the other side are also thinking otherwise. Now, it's taken too long, but that will be subjective. Those who are actually yearning for a clean environment think that it hasn't taken too long. For example, on the 16th of August, when the roadmap was outlined at the Ministry of Information, I think a headline came out that a ban on illegal mining in quote, has been lifted. And I think most people did not understand, actually delve into the meaning of that. But then people thought that the ban has been lifted. And you could see that majority of Ghanaians were not happy with it, because we have actually been communicating that within the next 5 years, if care is not taken, then we'll start importing water into this country. We've heard of people dying of kidney problems and all that. So those who are thinking normally think we should actually delve into it properly so that the right thing is done and we know where we are. Whereas those in the mining sector think so. So it's subjective. Now, but the president...
To be fair, forgive me, to be fair, after 17 months, what we have is a roadmap
Okay.
Okay, we haven't got all the actions yet. We're now about to see the actions being taken. So I guess my question is, why has it taken so long to just get a roadmap?
That's what I'm saying is subjective, because I don't think it's taken too long. I mean, most licenses within the country are, so to speak, illegal, because it has to be ratified by Parliament. And so if all over these years, Parliament hasn't had the opportunity to even ratify these licenses, and how many years has it taken? So I believe 15 months, yes, it's subjective to a few people, but very subjective to others as well, thinking that we have to do the right thing. But within the roadmap, I mean, before the roadmap came into being, let's look at the mandate that was given to the committee by the president. Then you can actually measure and say, I mean, ascertain where we are. Because what we're doing, we need to be realistic and then actually know, I mean, where we're traveling to. Now, we were given a mandate to strengthen the agencies, i.e. EPA, Minerals Commission, Water Resources Commission, Forestry Commission. Now we've added DVLA, and I'll explain why in a minute. And then we'll also ask them to ensure that they enforce the laws, because these agencies, there were laws that established them. The laws, acts of parliament that established them, gave them certain mandates, but they were not actually adhering to them. So the duty of the interministerial committee is to ensure that that is done. We are also asked to train miners, both registered and unregistered. I say both registered and unregistered because now, if you go into the small-scale mining sector, it's illegal to go and mine. So we are all illegal. But then unregistered are those who hitherto were actually delving, doing galamsey. Now we are looking at legalizing them. So we're trained to, asked to train them. So far we've trained about 3,000 and non-partisan. The application process is so transparent, and most of the people who went there were actually screened, not through a face-to-face interview or whatever. We actually used the district committee on illegal mining, which is one of our mandates that the president asked us to form across all mining districts within the country.
So you've trained 3,000 so far?
3,000 so far.
Of those who used to do galamsey?
Exactly.
Right. 3,000.
It would be 3,000 altogether, because both registered and unregistered.
Very well.
Because Ghana Small Scale Miners Association gave us about 1,000 names,
okay,
who are actually in that within that realm.
So you trained 3,000 out of a target of how many?
You see, the target, it's difficult to actually say how many we have there. After this roadmap has been actually exhausted, then we know how much, the true number of miners that we have in the system. People are coming out saying there's 4 million, 5 million, and all that. And whoever comes out to say that, it's basically, it depends on where the person is coming from or standing, really. So it could be 500,000, it could be 1 million, we don't know. But what we do know is that the artisanal and small-scale mining sector brings a lot of revenue within the country. However, there are a lot of leakages. So at the end of this roadmap, we are looking at blocking all these leakages so that a certain $5 billion discrepancy where the president stated that it's gone missing is blocked. So
that's to Dubai alone?
Dubai alone. Yeah. So within a year, if $5 billion is gone missing, then it means that artisanal and small-scale mining sector, if we're doing it and do it well, then and actually trying to get the foreigners out, because I cannot fathom why the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, says small-scale mining is the preserve of Ghanaians. I cannot fathom why somebody would go and bring a foreigner to come and mine our gold and export it. I struggle to understand that.
Right. So let's get back to the mandate. You've told us about strengthening agencies and training miners. Mm-hmm. You also talked about setting up these district
committees on illegal mining.
District committees. Yes. Okay. What else? Or is that it?
And also vet the 1,350 small-scale mining licenses within the system. With that, you see, the investigation we did came out that some licenses has been replicated across districts. So one license owns about 4 concessions across the country.
Right.
So the president wants us to delve into it. 2, the person within that agency who issues the license doesn't even know where the concession is. So there's a big gap as to monitoring and evaluating what you've done.
Right.
So all these things, we're looking into them. That's why we're starting the vetting today. All documentation must come here. we go through them, and then we go on the field and ascertain if that concession really does exist. So at the end of this exercise, we're going to know how many concessions we have per district, per region, and the country as well.
Okay. So now there's a roadmap. And we understand your mandate, but I'm sure the roadmap has a lot more detail. There's a lot more you're expected to achieve over a period of time. First of all, what is the duration, the duration for the implementation of this roadmap?
We're looking at, it's going to take about a month or two.
Okay.
But then, you see, most of the items within the roadmap can be actually done concurrently.
Right.
For example, today we're starting the vetting application process, documentation coming in today up till the 7th. In the same vein, we've started evacuation of heavy-duty equipment.
Right.
That's excavators and all that, and that's being rolled out in the central region. In the same vein, we're training NAPCO graduates under Digital Ghana who are going to be the drone pilots. We're training 288. So far, we've done about 200. And as I speak, a few more at Takwa University of Mines and Technology, which will be in train. So if you look at the items within the roadmap and then go one by one, then you're not going to actually get a clear indication of when the ban is going to be lifted, because some 2 or 3 can be done. It can be done in multiples. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's pick some of the big highlights.
Okay.
You've already mentioned the drone pilots. Talk us through that. What is the purpose of these drones?
Okay. Globalization is actually at the helm of affairs within the world now, and so technology comes into it. Technology transfer and all that. So you cannot do most things now without bringing in technology. And now we are bringing in the drones, for example, because we've done a pilot. The president sent us to go to certain forest reserves and all that, where illegal mining was prevailing. People go there ostensibly to reclaim degraded land, and then they end up mining. So we've gotten drone footages and all that. So the president approved of it, that we get drones. So we're having drones at the district level, we're having them at the regional level and the national level. So they all have their levels or capabilities. That information, once we get them, we're going to process them. So we are going to be monitoring 24/7. We have a room here, monitoring room here, with computers, and the NAPCO students are going to be monitoring 4 concessions at any point in time, and there's about 20 of them, so that's about 80. And whilst we're doing that, we're putting a lot of, because the system here in Ghana is that most in our part of the world, we bring in ideas or we do things and we do not follow up on them. The implementation is bad and the monitoring and all that. And this time the president said no, he wants us to follow it to the letter. So what we're doing is that the drone coming in is one deterrent, so that we can have real-time information and all that. And also we have a call center here where people can also communicate with us. We've also brought something in called the Galam Stop. The Galam Stop is a software which we actually did some investigation as well as to why the agencies are not working together. For example, if you go to EPA, they will give you a permit for 2 years. And then Minerals Commission will give you a mining license for 5 years. That's the small scale mining sector. So there's a discrepancy of 1 year. The other 3
years, right?
Well, no, so because it can be renewed twice. So there'll be 1 year left somewhere. Because when you take that, after the 2 years, when you go to EPA for another 2 years, already there's a 5 year running on there, so they have to do that. Also, the Minerals and Mining Act 2006 Act 703 says a license application shouldn't exceed 90 days. Now we have licenses that has taken about 3, 4, 5 years. So the person is actually has the impetus to go and mine illegally. The state loses funds, and then the environment is degraded, and there's no supervision because he's doing it illegally. So we did a research into that through all the agencies, and realized that if we bring them all together, like something called the one-stop shop, then we can monitor them all. So the Galam Stop brings in EPA, Water Resources Commission, Forestry, DVLA, in terms of the excavators, because people are saying that about 5,000, some are saying 6,000, some are saying 7,000. So the figure is misleading. We do not know how many excavators we have in this country. So by the evacuation that we're doing, we're going to count all of them. Know each each district, how many excavators, the regional level and the national level, and then put them on a database. And then we're going to have trackers on them, so each district can actually track them. But we have also a monitoring device here to monitor them as well. So basically, and they'll be geo-fenced. If I say geo-fenced, you cannot go beyond a certain radius.
With a particular excavator.
Exactly.
Okay.
So basically, all these things, that one-stop shop, which is the Galam stop, has come into being. After the exercise, we're also going to give them ID cards. Each miner will have an ID card. Each small-scale mining company will have an ID card. And what the Galam stop does is that hitherto you realize that the illegality is being performed on the concession, and the owner of the company sits in Accra whilst mercury is being used. And that person is drinking mineral water, bottled mineral water, whilst the water is polluted there. So what we're doing is that in law, I mean, we're trying to lift the veil of incorporation. So the Galam stop has the photos of the owners of the concession, i.e. the company registration documents. And so once you tap into it, you know whoever owns that company. So whatever illegality is being performed, we can lift the veil and then actually grab who's behind it. Once we've done the vetting and then also gone on the concession to ascertain what is happening, if reclamation has been done, the nature of pollution and all that. And once the president lifts the ban, we also want to have sign posted within the entry areas of the concession saying what has been done, the duration of your license and all that. So there's a lot coming out, and all that is contained in the Galam stop. So you can take it and then tap into it. And all those with Android phones or smartphones can actually tap into the Galam stop. But it depends on how the rights that you have.
Right. Okay.
I would have a different right because I sit here, so I can control the whole thing. But somebody on the street can actually have a certain right. But then, once you take a photo of an illegality, it tells us the time and date, so you cannot actually tamper with it.
So members of the public will be invited to access Galam Stop to provide information about illegal mining, with photographs and so forth.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think something that has been left out. You see, when we finish the vetting, like you said, 15 months of the license's life has been lost. Now the president wants it restored. So once we go through everything and you're good to go, we extend your license by 15 months, 16 months, whatever. And also, some of them have gone for loans. So the president is saying that we have to write to their banks and ask them to respectfully restructure their loans for them. So basically, we're putting them back where we found them.
But this is you just writing to the banks. Banks are private entities. Some of them are multinational companies. They are not bound.
Our government actually comes out in an enabling environment, and that's what we do. We are not into business, but then we actually, set a platform for businesses to thrive, and that's what we're looking at doing for.
I guess my point is there's no guarantee that just because the president has written to my bank, I'm going to get my loan restructured. If I'm saving or borrowing from a bank that has shareholders in Zurich somewhere, why would the president's letter result in my loan being
that's what I'm saying. The president or the government's job is to actually create the enabling environment. So the bank, once we've done that, we've gone through the documentation and we've actually given you the right or the go-ahead. The banks will know that it's not a risk to actually restructure your loans. You will do geological survey for you, actually ascertain how much is left there and all that, so they can go and then actually talk to their banks. But we're actually empowering them to do that.
Now, we'll come back to that in a bit. I'm curious about something. But first, let's learn a bit more about this process from the perspective of the small-scale and artisanal miners. So now they're about to be vetted. That starts today.
Yeah.
Tell us, what exactly are they supposed to, what are the requirements they're supposed to meet in order to be vetted successfully?
Okay, we expect them to bring their mining license, EPA license, other permits, i.e. water permits and all that. But hitherto, they were not getting them. They were supposed to get, some of them were supposed to get them. Your identification, where the concession coordinates and site plan are and all that. So you bring it to us, and then a team of mining engineers, EPA, Water Resources Commission, DVLA, we all sit at the table, go through them, and then you are invited to meet the panel. Once you meet the panel, you go through a certain verification, fingerprints will be taken, issuance of ID cards and all that. So you go through the technological bit, so that will help us in monitoring the concessions and others later on. Once we've done that, we check how many excavators we have in the system. By doing so, in the same vein, you realize that I said we're training up coal and all that. So by doing so, all these things will be ready before the president will be satisfied to go. So to conclude and then actually answer the question properly, we need these documentation from them. Because this morning, somebody called and said, I only have a mining license. I do not have EPA license. And I was talking about the synergy. So it means that somebody has issued a mining license somewhere, and the person does not have EPA license, but the person that has been mining for years. We need to find out why, who did what. Is it something, an avenue for corruption? All these things will be delved into. And then we'll also go on to the concession to ascertain how much reclamation the person was doing hitherto. If not, if we have to give you a probation period of maybe 4 months, 5 months, the committee will decide on that for you to reclaim the land before you go. Within the roadmap, we've also stated that in future, we want small-scale miners to post a bond. Large-scale do that. But the president said, up to now, people have gone through hardship, so let's suspend that, defer it for maybe 2 or 3 years, and once we've sanitized and regularized the sector, and we see that we're making some money for the country, then we actually can introduce the postage of bond. So I believe that when you've actually paid some security somewhere, you would be forced to reclaim the land.
Right. Now, a couple of things. The first one is, you talked about that $5 billion gap. If we were to consider just the Dubai market for Ghanaian gold, and we're seeking to plug it. So tell us how this process, this vetting, will also help with that. I mean, if I am a small-scale miner, and I bring you my mining license, EPA license, my permits, everything, I tick all the boxes, and you say, okay, go ahead and mine.
Okay.
How does that tell you who I've been selling my gold to, and whether or not that person has been taking it out of the country legally or illegally, and how you follow?
I get it. Okay, basically at the end of the process, we want to ascertain how many small-scale mining companies, one, we have in the district. Two, the NAPCO students will be coming there every now and then. I mean, I think it's daily, to actually ascertain who's working there. So if, for example, if you have 100 workforce, and every day they're on site for the past 6 months, and you tell us that you're not earning anything, then there are a lot of questions that then it means that you don't have to be in that sector. Three, actually, the president set through the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable John Peter Amewu, they have a committee working on how gold is exported out of the country, because there are a lot of leakages there, which we've done the investigation and all that. So that committee is working on that. So what we're doing is that we're actually trying to monitor each step of everyone within the industry. And I believe that through that, if you're district chief executive and you're looking for ways of bringing in revenue, and we finish with this process and we've given you 20 small-scale mining concessions, and you cannot control them and ascertain what you're doing, that means that you haven't met your KPIs.
Right. So, in essence, the vetting process that has started today will not necessarily be looking at that aspect. Some other bodies will be looking at it.
Like Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources are looking with the PMMC and all that, they're looking into that. Because Precious Minerals Marketing Company, they were in charge of that. So the Lands Ministry are looking into that.
Right, okay. But how does that join up then? Because in essence, someone can come through this vetting process and get that license. Or get a ban lifted.
By the time the ban is lifted, they would have finished with that, because that's another committee working on it.
Right.
But the whole thing is a value chain. We are not going to, if one leaves, one chain is broken, then the whole thing, we must as well not do it at all. So the whole thing is for us to actually block the leakages. And we're doing that using the agencies, one, enforcing them. So I think you saw them outside, the pickups that has been procured from Minerals Commission, the drones and all these gadgets that we've bought will be transferred to the agencies. But now this is a house cleaning thing that we're doing. And
so once they get the license, the agencies will then take over with the data you've collected through this vetting process and start monitoring them for the other stages of the value chain.
Exactly. But what I'm hearing is that I think the president wants this committee to keep monitoring it for some time. Because our culture has been that we do it and then we leave it. And I think under the previous administration, I remember President Mahama saying that they tried the interministerial committee thing and it did not work. But I think so far this committee has done a lot.
Right. So regarding monitoring, you talked about some NAPCO workers who would be going around to do the monitoring of what is actually happening on the concessions. Now, monitoring has forever been a challenge in Ghana. At all levels. ECG officials go out there and see illegal connections and take a little bit of money into their pockets to avoid reporting it. Same for TV license, same for virtually everything that requires on-site monitoring.
That's it.
How are you going to ensure that these NAPCO workers who are, being paid, less than 1,000 cedis a month, will not be tempted by gold miners, illegal miners who are raking in millions, will not be tempted to simply misreport, thereby avoiding scrutiny for these.
If that we just give them a documentation and then go through that. And I don't think it's going to be too difficult to do that.
The ratification, you mean?
Yes, because if we've gone through all these stages and put in impediments for illegalities to be stopped and all that, it's gone through cabinet, and that's what I'm saying. There are three arms of government.
Yes, we're talking about a theoretically independent arm of government. They could throw any kind of spanner.
No, I believe that. But you see, I mentioned three arms of government, but we have three arms of government because there have to be checks and balances.
Yes, that's right.
So the fact that we've actually done all the work and cabinet has gone through it and it's gone to parliament doesn't mean they have to go through them. They don't have to go through them. I believe they will also go through them. And if it's not correct, they'll come back to us.
So I guess I'm thinking about the small-scale miner who's watching us now, has been unable to do any business for, 17 months, is being told that there's just one hurdle now for him to go through, which is get vetted so that your license can be restored. He goes through that process, but what we are telling him is that that is not a guarantee that he can go back to mining. He will still have to wait for Parliament to ratify his license. And your committee is unable to tell us when that will happen, because that also depends on cabinet. So is there not still a lot of uncertainty to the mind of that small-scale miner?
I don't think
as
so.
to when he can actually start working again?
In my preamble, I said certain things can be done concurrently.
Yeah, that's right.
It can be multiple things. As we hear now, vetting is ongoing. Evacuation is ongoing. Of excavators is ongoing. We have NAPCO students, graduates being trained and all that. And I said, doing our mandate is also to ensure that the laws are being adhered to. So if we're doing this bit, and the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and he's the #1 man here, he can direct that. Whilst when you've done 100 of the licenses, please send them to Parliament once they reconvene for them to go through. So it's not a matter of people waiting. You see, there's so much anxiety in there. Let's look at a population of 1 million saying they want to go back to mining. And let's look at the 29 million, if that's the population of Ghana, saying that no, we are worried about water bodies. The president is in the middle now. That 1 million are equally important because there's a $5 billion that's missing there. Is he thinking about the money as against the environment? So it makes it very difficult. We have free SHS and all that, and other projects that have needs to be funded. This money can make do for us. So we want us to stick to the roadmap, and we want people to be citizens and not spectators. Come together with us and let us all carry the roadmap, and then the ban is lifted. And we can have responsible mining within the country.
Now back to these same small-scale miners and artisanal miners who are, eagerly drinking up this information about the way forward and the roadmap. They have been out of business for a year and a half. a year and a half to anyone's business will kill it.
Exactly.
And this is happening to them. I'm talking about those who had licenses and were operating legally. This situation, they are victims of it rather than the causes of it, because they were properly licensed. Is government seeking to compensate them in any way for the business that they've lost?
You see, when let's also look at it from this point of view, that there was a national disaster looming. We're told that within the next 5 years, we're not going to get proper water or potable water to drink, and therefore we're going to invest in import water into the country. Are we going to go ahead and accrue a lot of wealth and not have an environment? So we all have to be citizens and then actually look at it. Saying that does not mean that we are happy that some people are out of jobs, because this government is actually pro-business. We want to create an enabling environment for small businesses, and so it gets to the point that you have to make certain decisions for the best interest of a country, and I think that's what the president did. Those whose businesses have collapsed, yes, it's a bit painful, and not a bit painful, it's really painful.
Especially and again, since it's not their fault. I'm talking about those who are properly licensed.
But then you see, after the ban was imposed, we've been around the country, and some of their own people, members of the small-scale mining unit, were even working illegally, and they were even doing a lot of worse things. And they came to the table with us, and they said that, no, yes, we know our people were doing a lot of bad things, hence this. And some even came to us and said that the ban was timely, because things were getting out of hand, you see. So majority of them, if they're going to be honest with themselves, have actually do agree with the president. It's just that some people have politicized it. Now, where we are now, it's only one country that we have, which is Ghana. We only have one environment. You do not have a spare one somewhere. So I think we need to, when you juggle it, you need to look at the environment first, because you accrue all the fortunes and the wealth, and then if you do not have the environment, then I don't know where we're going, you see. And you're saying it's not your fault. Yes, it's not your fault, but sometimes when laws are passed, it's not everybody who is happy with the law that is passed. Criminals might not be happy, but good people would be happy.
In the newspapers last week, the small-scale miners started to speak up. They said that they are going to start blowing the whistle, so to speak. They will start fingering those in government and the chiefs who have been participating in illegal mining. They say they've always known who they are, but haven't spoken up about it.
Okay.
Well, in the past 18 months, what has your committee done about that? And more importantly, now that they are willing to start pointing fingers, what are you going to do about identifying and having these people prosecuted immediately?
As I said earlier, the president believes in the rule of law, and no one is above the law. My other question, why now? When the ban was imposed, why didn't they come out to say, actually point out those who are doing them? Is it a case of actually victimizing people? I would say whoever has cogent evidence or compelling evidence should come forward. The president is ready to deal with it. And so, we've been around the country. So, I mean, if the small-scale mining sector is regularized, I cannot see why a priest, a chief, a politician cannot do legitimate business. Of course you can, but illegal mining is what the president set out to actually abolish within our system. So whoever has cogent information must come forward with it.
Right. I mean, you did ask the question about why now. Does that mean that government is viewing this offer of information suspiciously?
No, because if you're a citizen and you are actually saying you're a victim of the ban, and you've seen somebody working illegally whilst you're actually being asked to sit at home, I would have come forward and say, he's at the helm of affairs, he's in a fiduciary position, he should be actually fighting for me. Why is he doing it? But you haven't done all these things, and you've been lamenting all this time that the ban should be lifted, and now that there's a roadmap, you come out and you still haven't mentioned names. And two, is there a case of politicizing it for people to just mention names and then they create fear and panic? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. If you have cogent information, the police, that's what the job of the police.
But I mean, you know, the police won't act unless someone makes a complaint, right? So
Yes.
Are you going to make a complaint? Because even the small-scale miners who say they know who these people are, what they are doing is they are admitting to obstruction of justice. If they actually know people who have been mining illegally and have not reported them to the police.
I wouldn't believe it, because there's no politician that we're talking about now. All these things are speculations. That's why I'm saying, come forward with a name, go to the police, report it to them. If nothing is done about it, then you can actually be telling the stories. But then if you haven't actually ventured into doing that, you can't actually sit and say the police would not do the job. Maybe previously, certain agencies were not doing that. But under this government, I believe the police actually, this leadership is a different.
So you're asking them to report these people on an individual basis?
Exactly.
And your committee will not be supervising any such exercise?
No. You can, you see, certain things, most of the small-scale miners themselves, they give us intelligence as to where things are happening and all that. And quickly we give the information to Operation Vanguard.
And has that intelligence been credible?
Oh, yes. So they know where those people are. And within the last month, I remember I was on a nationwide tour with Honorable Kofi Jamesi, and every day we were getting intelligence from the small-scale miners themselves. And a lot of arrests were done, made out of that.
But no chiefs, no politicians arrested so far?
No, you see.
None of them?
None. So basically, the people who were actually arrested are some of their own who've actually brought in foreigners to mine with. So in the process of doing that, surely if a politician was in there, then you can actually bring that politician out, and then we can all, because we are building a society under President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo where we say we do not want corruption. We want these elections based on the fact that the other government was saying they were corrupt. And this president is resolute in actually dealing with the matter. So I believe that if you bring something like that, he would get us to delve into it.
But this is interesting. I mean, what you are saying as a secretary of this Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining is that throughout these 18 months, none of the people who have been reported to you as mining illegally has been a politician or a chief.
No.
And the concessions on which you've arrested people, none of them were given out by a chief.
I have photos in the roadmap. I have a lot of photos here. And Operation Vanguard report to us daily. No politician.
None of them.
None.
And no chief.
None.
The odds of that are astronomical, especially since chiefs are the custodians of our land. I'm surprised that that is your,
But the chiefs are not above the law, even though Article 270 to 277 within the Constitution is for them.
So how come no chief has been arrested for giving out land for illegal mining? That has not happened in the past 18 months.
Because there's no cogent evidence, as I said. Whoever has seen a chief doing it should come forward with the name. I remember recently the president of the Western Regional House of Chiefs, Jiahoho Yaojibi, said that I think he gave a directive out to all the Western Regional Chiefs that within a week, all illegal or mining activities within their jurisdictions must cease. He's actually taken a leadership role. So within that, if somebody knows that there's a chief doing that, he can come forward. You see, we have a system where...
But we're talking about land, and we know who owns every piece of land. We know which chief is a custodian of every piece of land. Are we saying that none of the illegal mining we have uncovered since the fight against Galamsey began, none of that land was given out by a chief?
No, per the laws, they are custodians of the land, but the minerals beneath it belongs to the state. So, when this problem has been going on, Minerals Commission have been issuing the license because the minerals belongs to the state, right? And some of the chiefs have even complaining that they are not part of the decision making. Now, this roadmap is seeking to bring them on board. But you see, when we're trying to solve a problem, when we started this whole interministerial committee thing, we had people coming to us to say that Operation Vanguard were extorting money from them. Some of them were not true. On the larger scale, Operation Vanguard has performed very well. It is because most of these people did not want them to come into their communities. So they said they're extorting money from us. They said, oh, you voted for this government and all that, so that we back off. but then we're resolute in actually asking them to do the job. Recently, about 6 members of Operation Vanguard were arrested for extorting money and all that. And what happened to them? So that was in itself a deterrent to other members of the forces. So
forgive me for being quite insistent on this, but I just want a clear statement from you that in the past 18 months since your committee came into existence, all the illegal mining activity that has been identified during that time by Operation Vanguard and all the other means by which you've been doing this, none of it has been found to be happening on a piece of land that was given by a chief. None of that has happened.
I haven't had any information like that.
So this land that they've been mining on illegally is from where? Where have they got it from?
That's why the operative word is illegal. Because if you've gone there and you haven't seen the chief hasn't given it to you, or maybe even the chief gives it to you, and you do not have a license from Minerals Commission, then it makes it illegal. So that's what I'm saying. There's a value chain.
So you never found a mining concession where the chief has given it to them, but they don't have a license? You never found that?
No, I haven't had such information, because my job is to work with the agencies. Somebody can give a land somewhere. I've had people who's been here, they came to me and said they own a concession, but they do not have documentation. Surely that's illegal. This was land that was given to him by his great-great-grandfathers. So they own the land. But he felt that is his property. He's forgotten that the minerals beneath it belongs to the state. So I had to educate him. You understand? You're talking about politicians. My name has been mentioned as to, dealing with illegal mining, also giving concessions out. I have never seen gold. You understand? But my name was mentioned. What did I do? I went straight to the police and reported myself to them, and I said, investigate the matter. And I went ahead and also carried out my own investigations.
So no chiefs, no politicians ever implicated in the past 18 months?
I haven't had such information. People can say whatever they have, but if you ask me to pull out a documentation giving you such intelligence, then I do not have that.
Okay, so we are looking at about 2 months of activity to complete this roadmap. And at the end of it, we should have a sanitized mining.
Yeah, approximately 2 months. I wouldn't be definite, because lifting of the ban lies within the bosom of the president. I'm looking at what we have here, and I'm saying some can be done concurrently, and then others can be done on their own. So, the lifting of the ban will be indicative of what we do. We take out from the book.
Mr. Charles Cromwell, thank you very much for your time with us.
Yes.
I appreciate it.